Welcome everyone to Caleb Watches Movies, the channel where I, Caleb, randomly select from one of the many movies that I own, and I watch and review them for you. And today is a very special movie review day because I'm not actually reviewing a movie, I'm gonna be watching a movie because today is the 10th anniversary of one of the most important films to ever be released, in my opinion, at least if you are a superhero fan, one of the most important films to ever be released, and that's Marvel's The Avengers. Released in 2012 and is directed by Joss Whedon, who I know we don't talk about at all these days because, I mean, he's dug his own grave. He's said the things that he's said, and I'm not going to dwell on him that much, but you do have to admit, this film that was directed by him is actually very entertaining, and it pulled off everything that every studio company thought would be impossible, taking all of these different superhero properties and combining them into one gigantic film that was cohesive, that flowed very nicely, had great action, and had great characters, and had great dialogue. I'm not going to have a lot of bad things to say about this movie. And I had a ton of fun doing my watch-along of Batman and Robin last year, and I thought, I gotta do these more often. Because with a film like this, I mean, what hasn't been said about it? So for me to come up with some, like, in-depth analysis of this movie in a short 10-minute review, I don't think is fair. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about developing that. I'm just gonna watch it, and then you can watch me watching it, because that's what you do on the internets nowadays. So enough of me talking, I think let's just let this movie do the talking for us. Here it is, Marvel's The Avengers from 2012. Oh, before they had their epic fanfare with all the music and all of the films that they had done recently. That's right, the first phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was distributed by Paramount. So before Disney, I mean, Disney owned it at this point, but before they had all the ownership and were releasing it like crazy, Paramount was doing it. So. And of course, we had no idea that was Thanos in the chair back then.
And the humans, what can they do but burn?
It's Seth Rollins' favorite movie. Burn it down! From what I heard of this movie being created, it had a lot of problems. When the phase started and talks of Avengers was beginning, the original writer had something, and I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige was reading it, was like, this is just not good, or at least it's not going to cut it. So they went to Joss Whedon and said, hey, you got to create something for us, and if you do a good job, you're hired, you're directing. And all they gave him was, hey, we need an introduction of our characters, these are the characters we're using. We need a mid-film battle, and then we need a big, epic battle in the end. That's all they gave him to do. And then he created everything else. I think he does a great job here. CGI cables, of course, so, you know. It's not perfect. I remember seeing Colby Smulders in this film and just thinking like, oh, it's Robin Scherbatsky. Oh, Canada.
I need you to make sure the Phase 2 prototypes are shipped out.
Phase 2? Phase 2? What? Also remember that this film was supposed to start differently with her being interrogated about his actions. I'm glad they changed that. Here we go. We have a Skarsgård in here, so it's an actual movie. You need to have a Skarsgård in a movie for a movie to be a movie.
Nothing harmful. Low levels of gamma radiation.
That can be harmful.
Yeah, it can be harmful, dude. Hawkeye! See, I love that Hawkeye was the first Avenger revealed in this movie. I love Hawkeye. Everyone gives him shit, but he's my favorite Avenger. So glad he's gotten his TV show and that he was used a lot in the sequel, Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah, the cube is a doorway to the other end of space, right?
Uh-huh.
Doors open from both sides.
That's that engineering degree coming in handy. Mm-hmm. The portal to another universe. It's early in the morning, so I'm having some coffee while watching my Avengers in my Fampy cup, because no other Pokemon beats Fampy. Loki of Asgard. How he is written in this film is peak Loki. Loki has never been this good in anything else that the character has showed up in. I think the first episode of the Loki TV series is really, really excellent, because it's a deconstructing of his character, but here he is just perfect villain, and it's great. His hair grew a lot from Thor, but, you know. Bullets, huh? Yeah, no. Loki of Asgard. I know the joke has been made a ton, but for S.H.I.E.L.D. being a secret agency, they sure have their logo plastered on everything. I remember not being happy with him being turned into a villain for the first, I guess, 3/4 of this movie, but it makes sense with this story and how it's crafted, it makes sense. Like, me as a fan, I didn't want that to happen, but from crafting the story and from writing the screenplay, it makes sense. You have to turn him.
I am Loki.
Of Asgard.
An ant has no quarrel with a boot.
Yeah, it does. You just shot Samuel L. Jackson. If this movie was made today, I don't think Jeremy Renner would have gotten this part. But he was big at this time, because he would have just been in the Hurt Locker.
Who's that?
Come on, Robin. Scherbatsky. I'm pretty certain that Joss Whedon had bigger plans for Maria Hill in the whole franchise. Because that's how the comic Civil War began, is like she came in and Nick Fury was excommunicated some way, from what I remember, but then she took over S.H.I.E.L.D. and I think that's kind of the seeds that Whedon was trying to plant with this movie, but definitely didn't go anywhere because, quite frankly, I don't give a shit about her character, and I don't think anyone else did. I remember seeing this opening night with my wife, and we went to a very late showing. It was like 10:30 opening night, and which is what we never do because we're old people. But I remember going in and being engaged the entire time, and she was engaged the entire time. Usually, like, she would be falling asleep if it was that late, but we were having such a great time with this movie. We got out at like 1 o'clock, but we didn't care because it was awesome. We got matching Avengers t-shirts too. We actually did that for all the Avengers movies. We always watched them with matching Avengers shirts. Something cute that we always do. I also like this opening scene too because it kind of makes S.H.I.E.L.D. an important character in this movie. Because when you think about the Avengers, you just think mainly Iron Man, Captain America, Hulk, and Thor, and Black Widow, and Hawkeye. But you have to establish S.H.I.E.L.D. as their own character and an important character in the playout of this movie. I always forget that Phil Coulson was in this franchise. And he plays such a pivotal part in creating the Avengers. Even though it's totally undone with that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s TV series. Loki on a Humvee of Asgard. Uh-oh, Sam, you gotta jump. I know you didn't want to do anything physical in this movie. You had to jump. What do we do? Love that Avengers theme. The only time Whedon wrote this character correctly. He establishes her as a main, like, interrogative force, but then in Age of Ultron, for whatever reason, just completely undid it and gave her this stupid romance storyline with Hulk that makes no sense and just undermines everything that he establishes in this movie. Very frustrating. That's Age of Ultron, though. Let's talk about Avengers. We'll talk about Ultron in 3 years when that film has its 10-year anniversary. Does that make you feel old? Really, Carl? I'm about to torture this woman? You can't put your phone on silent? Come on, dude. What's next? You're gonna unwrap your Werther's candy over there? I'm trying to perform here.
Put the woman on the phone or I will blow up the block before you can make the lobby.
Okay. Whatever you say, strange man. Oh my god, she's got a wooden chair. She's gonna break him in half. Oh yes, the introduction of Mark Ruffalo to the MCU. He was not the original Hulk, it was Edward Norton. You upgraded. I do wonder how this MCU would have been with Edward Norton. I can't imagine that Bruce Banner would have been in a lot of movies. I feel like if he was still Bruce Banner in the Hulk, then like they would have created Smart Hulk much earlier just to get Edward Norton off the set. Because Norton's a great actor, he really is. But he's also very opinionated, and it's been recorded several times that he's voiced his opinion in not the best way possible.
Should have got paid up front, Banner.
Those are words to frickin' live by.
Who are you?
Natasha Romanoff.
And I'm Caleb Knutson. Nice to meet you. I like how reserved he is. Edward Norton he had this air of confidence about him as Bruce Banner in The Incredible Hulk. Mark Ruffalo is very reserved, and you can tell he is introverted. He's hunched over like he's shy, or he's trying to not be seen, trying to have someone else have power over him. I do like how Bruce Banner does refer to Hulk as the other guy in this movie. Of course, later on in the MCU, it is established and he has a relationship with him, but here it's so nice going back and seeing these characters at first, because you just see where they're afraid of themselves with their superpowers. Sometimes. Tony Stark's not afraid.
There's no one that knows gamma radiation like you do. If there was, that's where I'd be.
I know my gamma, baby.
Asgard has declared war on our planet.
Not Asgard. Loki.
Of Asgard. Of all the characters, if there is one person who doesn't get like a solid moments in this movie, I think it's Thor. He's the less served out of everyone.
You're gonna leave the fate of the human race to a handful of freaks.
One of them fought for the frickin' country in World War II, you asshole.
No. It's won by soldiers.
It's stuff like that. It's the transitions from scene to scene and introducing the characters and moving the plot along. It's the best thing about this movie. This movie is perfect when it comes to transitions. This was back still when Chris Evans was establishing himself as Captain America. There were still doubters and still haters of him in that role back when this movie was first released. I think this movie put it all to bed, especially with Winter Soldier right after this with Chris Evans. But from first Avenger up until this movie, there were still questions of like, is he really the leader? I mean, it's really Tony Stark.
I went under. The world was at war. I wake up, they say we won. They didn't say what we lost.
What did we lose? Well, I guess a lot.
You here with a mission, sir?
I am
Trying to get me back in the world?
trying to save it.
Can I just get a shower first, Nick? I'm really sweaty. You know?
Who took it from you?
He's called Loki. He's not from around here.
He's from Asgard. I just want to take this home, please. So I can work out and impress my neighbor Sharon. Here we go. Robert Downey. Gosh, you miss him. You miss him in this role. And actually at this time, it was like, I think he wanted to do this, but he wasn't as 100% into the MCU as he became in Phase 3. Because at this time, he was still negotiating with his contract, and Marvel was like, we want to keep you, but he's like, well, pay me a lot of money. I do commend this movie because this movie fixed the character of Tony Stark from Iron Man 2. Because Iron Man 1, Stark had this resurgence, or this resurrection from the asshole to this war fighter, basically, or at least peace defender. And then in Iron Man 2, he just became just this arrogant prick again. But here, he actually checks it back a little bit.
I'm not in. I'm actually out.
That's my type of humor right there. Literal humor. Yeah. I wish I had that in my house where it just takes off my clothes and puts on like sweatpants when I come home from work. There's still a sense of like improv and naturalism when it comes to their dialogue. Like from Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2, but again, his character is refined more. He's not so much of an asshole as he was in Iron Man 2.
His first name is Agent.
Great line. That's right, we didn't know his name was Phil until this movie.
I thought, and I didn't even qualify.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, apparently I'm volatile, self-obsessed, don't play well with others.
Kind of a restructuring of the original films in Phase 1. To make it work for this movie, you kind of just turn it off. Like, this... Yeah, they said things in other films in post-credit scenes, but here we are. Let's just go along with this.
I sort of met you. I mean, I watched you while you were sleeping.
I love how he tries to play it off like it's not creepy at all, but with Phil Coulson, I totally see him standing over a sleeping Steve Rogers like, oh yes, the basic uniform, Captain. Not the best costume. You can definitely see where they were coming from. It's not the worst. You go back to the 90s with Captain America movies and the biker helmet that he wore. But definitely not the best. In the MCU, the worst iteration of the Captain America uniform. Got a Zoom call coming in.
I was a king. The rightful king of Asgard.
Because he's Loki of Asgard. I read the Thanos Titan Rising book, I want to say is the title of it. But it's the tie-in novel with Thanos to, I think, Infinity War or Endgame. And it gave you the unofficial origin of Thanos. And I was disappointed at how little the Chitauri were in it. And actually disappointed of how a lot of these things, like in the MCU, were in the book. A lot of this stuff, his foursome, his big foursome people that he had in Infinity War, is like in the last like couple of pages of that book. He goes through everything else. Disappointing. You need a hair wash, Loki. I like that they still keep him in that 40s-ish style and that proper chivalry aspect about him. It's the bomber jacket and kind of like the classic dad clothes.
Really? They want me in a submerged pressurized metal container?
They kind of do. They kind of do. It's the Hellicarrier. Hella not.
Shield Emergency Protocol 193.6 in effect. We're at level.
Ah, yes. 1.93.65 stardate. I love random numbering procedure policies in films like this. They're hilarious. I know that the humor and the CGI of this movie is ridiculed nowadays, just with all the greatness that we've gotten in the MCU since this movie. But back then, like, this movie was great, and it was the benchmark of greatness in superhero films. And I love little nods of humor like that.
You're gonna love it, Doc. You got all the toys.
Oh, you'll love it in the next one, too. With all the toys. There's nothing that makes you more villainous than coming to an event in a suit and tie with a scarf, like Loki, and doing terrible things while the string quartet is playing in the background. Nothing more villainous than that. Hey, bud, I need your eyeball. Could I have that? Thanks. Ah, but it's Disney. We can't show all the blood. It's like one of the few heists that you see in a movie that is actually pulled off, like, perfectly. No opposition for Barton. He gets in, he gets it, and leaves. It's very rare that you see a heist get pulled off like that. This right here is probably the reason why I love this movie so much. This scene is one of my favorite scenes just in all of cinema. It's perfect. I love it. Loki loves this. He has this air about him. This idea that everyone should worship him.
The bright lure of freedom diminishes your life's joy in a mad scramble for power.
And it's so fitting that it's here in Germany.
In the end, you will always kneel.
And then here's the best part. Oh, I love this part so much.
Not to men like you.
There are no men like me.
There are always men like you.
Because, you know, him being old, he's seen shit in this country. You see people get inspired in the background. And every once in a while, yep, more people stand up. And that's, I think, what the MCU got right with Captain America. If this was back in the 90s, they'd be like, oh, it's you know, Americana, and America is the best ever. In the MCU, at this time, you can't say that. You can't say that America is the greatest and go to different countries and say that, because it's just not true. So what you do is you inspire people with the person. And Steve Rogers is the person to inspire someone to be better than themselves.
Kneel.
Not today.
Yeah. He does get his ass kicked by Loki, though. He doesn't stand a chance. It's the only playlist that Tony Stark has is AC/DC.
Mr. Stark. Captain?
Oh, you guys are going to be best friends, but not for too long.
Scared of a little lightning? I'm not overly fond of what follows.
A thunder? Or as AC/DC would say, thunder! I remember seeing this scene in theaters and thinking like, wait, at the end of Thor, the Rainbow Bridge was destroyed, and the big thing was that he couldn't go anywhere. But then, all of a sudden here, it's just, I'm here, guys. Whedon was like, yeah, so that was your story, but here's my story, so fuck you.
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
Well, she wouldn't dress like that.
With the Bifrost gone, how much dark energy did the All-Father have to muster to conjure you here?
Dark energy?
Precious Earth.
He used dark energy? What the fuck is dark energy? The dialogue here is solid. Just establishing this dialect of Asgardians. It's a very Shakespearean presentation of language. And I love it. And it was at this point, too, that I was just really appreciative of this movie in connecting all of these different other previously establishing films into this one big thing. Because stories lying like this keep happening. We have things from Captain America and Iron Man. It was at this point where I was like, yes, this film is doing it, and it's not ignoring everything. It's combining everything.
I have grown, Odin's son, in my exile.
I love how he says that. Odin's son.
Listen well, brother.
I'm listening.
Doth mother know he weareth her drapes? Oh, back when Iron Man was actually made of iron and not nanotechnology. Yeah, he's just sitting down, guys. He's not trying to escape. Should tell you something.
That's enough.
That shield really does disobey the laws of physics. And it was at that moment when Thor and Captain America became best friends. You know, Man of Steel got so much shit after the battle between Zod and Superman, destroying all the buildings in Metropolis and all these people dying. Whereas here, you know, they basically destroyed an entire forest, but not a single red flag or a single uprising over that when all those trees were killed. Come on!
You so much as scratch that glass.
Scratch?
Ant. Boot.
Boom!
Loki is beyond reason, but he is of Asgard. And he is my brother.
He killed 80 people in 2 days.
He's adopted.
No hard feelings, Point Break. You got a mean swing.
I understand that reference now, because before seeing this movie, I have not seen Point Break. But I watched it last year for my channel. So I get it now.
When did you become an expert in thermonuclear astrophysics?
Last night.
How long did it take you to deliver that line, Shabatsky?
Let's start with that stick of his. It may be magical, but it works an awful lot like a hydro weapon. I don't know.
I love his dialogue in here because he would be using the terms and verbs like I would. Like that stick that he's carrying. It's not a scepter.
I understood that reference.
And with that, a meme was born. Another great scene here, the Mewling Quim scene. Love it. Loki is by far the standout of this movie. And like I said, he's never been better since this film. I love the escalation and the crescendo of this scene. It starts off nice, pleasant, calm, and just slowly, the digs get in there, the wrapping comes off of these characters, and all of a sudden just the rage of Loki, the evil side of Loki, is fully revealed, and it's a beautiful scene. Only for him to discover that he was never the one in power in this scene. I love it.
I'm Russian. Or I was.
Ha! Explains the missing accent.
I won't touch Barton, not until I make him kill you. Slowly, intimately, in every way he knows you fear. My bargain, you Mewling Quim.
I'm kind of aroused right now. Haha. You've been played, sucker!
Thank you for your cooperation.
But I'm Loki. Of Asgard!
I was in Calcutta. I was pretty well removed.
Loki's manipulating you.
And you've been doing what exactly?
This concept, I mean, it was brand new back in 2012. Taking all of these people that, you know, should be this team, but they're not enemies, but they don't work together well. You know, they're solo people. And for them to kind of get that reason to figure out, hey, let's finally work as a team. Works here. And then after this movie, every other film franchise and film studio out there tried to copy it. Hell, Warner Brothers even hired Joss Whedon to bring in and change all of Justice League and try to turn it into Avengers in 2017. Thankfully, we finally got the actual version of Justice League last year. And it was definitely not that. God, Whedon really fucked that movie up. It's so bad.
Engine is down.
Engine 3 is down! Thank you, Shabatsky. Thank you in your Midwest Canadian accent. Engine 3 is down, don't ya know? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Big green giant rage monster. Banna, calm the fuck down. He looks so much better in this movie than he did in Incredible Hulk 2. Much smaller in this movie. Like, he's not as tall as he was in Incredible Hulk, but still, I mean, I think he looks the best that he's ever looked. Is the sun going down? Well, yeah, you're shooting at him. He would be angry. You jerk. Bye. I feel like this was the first movie that established that everyone could wear earpieces and microphones, and everyone can just communicate that way. We don't have to worry about someone having like a radio or walkie-talkie or something. Because we see that in every single MCU film after this, too. Someone will be off miles away, but they'll still be talking because they have the earpiece. It's like you always have your earpiece in.
You want to find out?
Sorry, Phil. First of many secret agent fights between Barton and Natasha Romanoff. I say many, but I think we only got like one more after this, and that was Civil War. And the problem with Civil War is that everyone was pulling their punches because they're all friends.
It's okay, boss. This was never gonna work.
It was at this point that it was like, this is a pretty important death, and it was a sad death, but a necessary one. And then the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. just totally undid it all. I really hope they never introduce him in the MCU, though. Or reintroduce him, I guess, in the movie universe. Because if they ever do, I feel like everyone would just be like, really? That's the whole reason why the MCU exists now, is because of your death, and you're not dead. What the fuck? Oh yeah, it was at this moment that Tony Stark's heart broke, and you can't see his arc reactor under his shirt. I feel like that was a design flaw, or just something that was totally missed by the script supervisor. Then they try to retcon it and say like, no, it was a choice. I'm like, really? It was a choice? Okay.
The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people. See if they could become something more.
And it never worked out, and we never got more movies after this. You are right. It is very old-fashioned. I feel like Ruffalo gets naked in every single movie that he's in.
Well then, son, you've got a condition.
The best lines of this movie right there. My kind of humor, too. Like, I would point out the obvious, and I would find that funny for me. Thank God this scene is in here. Otherwise, him teaming up with them just wouldn't make sense. We have to have some type of moment with Barton. Hey, Natasha, check out my veins. See my veins, my arms? It means I've been working out. Natasha, see my veins?
Flowers, he wants parades, he wants a monument built to the skies with his name plastered. Son of a bitch.
And here we go. Here's the big climactic New York City battle.
You guys aren't authorized to be in here.
Son, just don't.
How many times do you just want to say that to anyone who just questions you or comes at you like that? Like, dude, no.
Sir, the Mark 7 is not ready for deployment. Then skip the spinning rims. We're on the clock.
I love how the butler, whenever it comes to getting a new suit for their master, like it hasn't been tested. They always point out, like, it hasn't been tested. Like in Batman Forever, when Bruce is going to put on the sonar suit, Alfred's like, it hasn't been tested yet. All the other suits are destroyed, Alfred. I'm going to wear this. Here with Jarvis. Like, Jarvis, all my other suits are destroyed. I'm going to wear the Mach 7.
I have an army. We have a Hulk. Oh, I thought the Beast had wandered off. You're missing the point.
He's right here. Hanging out with us. Loki of Asgard. You can kind of tell that Robert Downey Jr. is... I don't say he's, like, phoning in, but he's not as enthusiastic as he was with, like, the first two Iron Man films. Because at this point, he didn't know what he wanted to do, and he hadn't signed a new contract for after Iron Man 3, so we didn't know if we were going to get him in the long term. 1 out of 5? Oh, God! And they didn't deploy, and Tony Stark died, and we never saw him again. Oh, wait, it's deploying. Ha! Yeah, he didn't fall and kill those people, but you know that the boosters and the heat that just rushed and pushed them down, you know that had to hurt a lot for those people down below. Oh, finally! Dude, let's go! Here's the invasion.
Army.
I've seen worse.
Sorry.
No, we could use a little worse.
Oh, and it's from there the first inclinations of wanting to hide the zucchini was created. I don't.
Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
Hey guys, you want a superhero moment? You want a superhero moment? Here comes the superhero moment. Watch this. Here comes the superhero moment. Here it comes. You see it? Boom! God, I remember thinking in theaters like, oh, hey, they stand a chance now. Holy shit! Frickin' great. Love it. Hey, look at us! We're standing in a circle. We're kind of badass. I remember first time seeing this, I'm like, oh, there's more of those serpent things. Jesus!
And Hulk. Smash.
And it was at that point that Hulk and Captain America became best friends. And actually, that's the first time that anyone, like, ever talked to Hulk and encouraged him to be Hulk. So yeah, it totally makes sense. Hey look, it's Thor doing the only thing that Thor does in this entire battle scene. And it works for a little bit, but then yeah, he does nothing. He does nothing else after that. Here we're establishing Hawkeye as a badass. Boom. Doesn't even look. Not even looking! And all the while, Kate Bishop is looking out from her balcony at Hawkeye thinking, I wanna be like him. Another great little sequence here where everything connects. That's awesome. Here he goes. Now we need to check in with Hawkeye. Very easy for us to go to the next person because he shoots the arrow. There's Hulk being Hulk again. Hey, there's Thor! He's doing things! He's doing something here. And just the little cap on it is so perfect. Awesome. One of the best parts of the movie right here.
And I will not be bullied by that.
And you're just done. You're done after that. Like, yeah, I've done enough for this movie. I'm gonna lay my ass down. That hurts a lot. I love that. Yeah. It's nice seeing an archer run out of arrows in a movie, because it never happens. So cool! I love Hawkeye! I love Hawkeye! He is so cool! Now, I use this scene when I'm teaching, and I'm teaching my students about the use of Deus Ex Machina in films and novels, in plays, where back in Greek times, how they would wrap up their plays is they would have some type of deity come down to resolve all of the conflict, because that back then, everything was done in honor of the gods. So there has to be some type of, like, godly answer to fixing everything. If you watch Wizard of Oz, Glinda coming in and telling Dorothy that she could have gone home the entire time by clicking her heels together is Deus Ex Machina. Here, this is Deus Ex Machina. How do we take care of this bomb? And the bomb is now up in the portal, so now it's not going to destroy New York City. Okay, so that's taken care of. But this film's been going on for 2.5 hours. We got to wrap things up. We have to resolve the story here. So how are we going to do that really quickly? We have thousands of aliens in New York City flying around and terrorizing people. But we got to wrap this up for the audience. The audience here. So how do we do that? Well, let's take the nuke and we'll throw it at the big mothership. And basically we're going to do the Star Wars Episode 1 thing. Destroy the ship. And of course, every alien is connected to the ship in some telepathic way that the ship is now destroyed, so all of the aliens are now dead. That resolves everything. That is Deus Ex Machina. She closed it, and Tony Stark didn't make it through. He wandered in space, and he died, and we never saw him after this movie. Sadly. Oh no! He survived. I remember they gave that moment away in the trailer, where Hulk catches Iron Man. Tony. Hey, Tony. Tony.
What the hell? What just happened? Please tell me nobody kissed me.
We won.
All right, hey. All right, good job, guys. Let's just not come in tomorrow. Let's just take a day.
That's how I'd react to.
You ever tried shawarma? I don't know what it is.
I actually had shawarma the other day. I had shawarma before this movie, because it's really big here in Kalamazoo. There are tons of shawarma joints. But before, like, I don't think, like, the majority of people, at least in this country, knew what shawarma was. But definitely after this movie, everyone did know what shawarma was.
If it's all the same to you, I'll have that drink now.
Awesome. I love their consolation prize for saving the world in New York City is just, like, awesome vehicles. We get badass cars, and Cap gets a badass motorcycle that he's totally driving.
Sir, how does it work now?
Sir, how does it work now? Sir? Don't you know? Oh, hello there. They'll all just come back.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Why?
Because Disney wants the money. Oh, I remember thinking that was so cheesy at the end, but it's a nice ending. Dun, 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 dun. Was this the first, like, mid-credit scene that we got? Maybe not. I think it was Incredible Hulk, actually.
To challenge them is to court death.
And it was at that moment that everyone in the theater went, "Who was that?" Like, big superhero nerds would have known that, oh, that's Thanos and the Infinity War and the Infinity Gauntlet series. But I was sitting there thinking, like, I have no idea who that is. And then looking up people explain it after this, they were all calling him Thanos or Thanos. Most of them were calling him Thanos until we finally realized, like, oh no, the proper enunciation is Thanos. And he ended up being, like, the best villain in all of the MCU and all of superhero films, so there we go. I do have to end this by watching, like, the best post-credit scene, because after a film like this, just with everything that happened, there's really only one way to end it, and that's just, yeah, let's just sit around and just eat some shawarma. Don't say a word. We're all tired. This was awesome. Okay. Shawarma's really good. Shawarma's really good. I know that they filmed this, I believe they filmed this, like, the night of, not opening night, but like opening premiere night. They got all of the cast together, got them in their costumes, and they shot this scene very, very quickly. That's why Cap over there is holding his hand up to his face, because he had this huge beard and he didn't want to shave it. So he just put his hand over his face and just did makeup up here. But yeah, that was shot like the day before the official opening day of the Avengers. And that is Marvel's Avengers. It's a great movie. It really is. It's a fun movie. Everything flows together perfectly. It's seamless. The transitions are fantastic. The action is great. The CGI, yeah, you can tell it's green screen in some scenes, but yeah, I guess I'm easily forgiving of that because this movie is just it's so great. It's so perfect. And it's so important. Because this movie needed to work. If this movie doesn't work and succeed how well it did, then the MCU, what we get after that with Infinity War, Endgame, all the Disney Plus shows, Spider-Man, we don't get any of that. I really enjoyed this movie, and I've watched it so many times, like endless times, on repeat, just because it's a lot of fun. Is there some dated things in it? Yes, absolutely, but for the most part, it's almost 100% completely perfect. I'm going to give The Avengers 4.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
It's good. It's good.
So guys, that's my reaction to watching The Avengers. What did you think of my reaction? What do you think of this movie? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let me know what you thought about it. And as always, if you like what you see here, if you like my take on movies, then hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell. See you on the next time I release my next movie review. So guys, I will see you next time on the channel. But in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.